Joe, we really appreciate you taking some time with us today. Yesterday, the team announces that John Elway is stepping back and stepping up into a new role, relinquishing general manager duties. You said that the conversations that you had with John were pretty candid, and he said that this decision was more about life than maybe football. So what was the tone of those conversations like, and how much was it personal versus football when you guys had a chance to speak?
That's a good question, Matt. I think it was John says as much personal, and he really dug into things personally. But he also dug into what was best for the organization at this time. And, I said earlier, I commend him for that. I'm proud of him for being able to do that. He put the organization first, I think. But he also put himself first and what's best for him. And I think he's reached a decision that will be great for him and good for the Broncos. And I look forward to beginning the search for the new general manager.
You've had a distinguished football career yourself, both at the league level and here in Denver. Where does John Elway rank as far as the football people that you've been involved with in your career?
Well, I said yesterday in my statement, Matt, that John's the most important and impactful player and person in the history of the organization, given all that he's done for it over the years. He's just brought a great deal of so many different things to the organization over the years, and also to the National Football League. The growth of the game has been extraordinary. The growth of the NFL has been extraordinary, and John Elway played a big part in that. I think if you look back at him as a player and all that he accomplished and all that the Broncos accomplished when he was a quarterback, and then later in 2010, all we accomplished, going to 2 Super Bowls, winning 1, winning 5 straight division titles, to get the Broncos back on track. I think it's an extraordinary track record, really, and he's to be commended for recognizing that maybe now's the right time to step away and help us get better by bringing in some other people.
I know he's going to be instrumental in the GM search and getting to the GM search now. I know COVID protocols have greatly impacted the football season. I'm sure they're going to impact the GM search a little bit in regards to, how the interview process goes. Does having previous experience in Denver give a candidate maybe a leg up, or what qualifications do you want a candidate to have at this time? I know, again, COVID protocols being what they are, it's going to make this process a little bit different than it might have been years ago.
Yeah. In terms of someone who's been here or has familiar with the organization, I don't know if it'll be beneficial or not, because I think that whoever that person is really is going to have to come in and put his own stamp on the general manager job. And John indicated that he's going to be responsible for all the decisions and whatnot. So, but it may be beneficial in the interview process because he knows a lot of the people. He knows how the building works a little bit, perhaps. But I don't know that it's a critical element. I think the most critical element is that we find the best overall person that can work for the organization and work with Vic to find the best possible players and put us in a structure operationally, organizationally on the football side to help us be successful and win games.
I know the 2020 season was trying for a lot of different reasons, personally and professionally for a lot of folks. But the Broncos managed to play an entire regular season, no postponements. The league got through an entire regular season with no postponements. What do you think was the biggest challenge in making that a reality? And now that we're finished through the 17-week regular season, was there ever a moment where you were like, wow, I am very pleasantly happy or surprised that we've gotten this far and accomplished all that we have?
Well, I'll answer the latter part of your question first. And, the day I said wow was when we took the field last Sunday against the Raiders, and we made it. We got through every single game successfully. That certainly was an accomplishment. Now, we didn't have a good record on the field, and there was a lot of disappointment and frustration in that, no question about it. It really was just keeping people on board with all of the procedures, all of the processes that were in place. And there were a lot. There were masks, there was distancing, there was testing, There was changing your social life patterns to stay away from people and not congregate. Trying to adapt to new ways of preparing for games, doing Zoom calls, having to separate at practice and not stand next to each other. All kinds of things that were so much different than a normal season would otherwise be. And they never let it beat them down and grind them down. Didn't win games the way we should, but they showed up every day, they practiced hard, they had a good attitude, and they got us through the season. And that's players, coaches, and a whole staff. And I'm proud of the way that they responded and they acted throughout the entire year.
The last time that we had a chance to speak was at the beginning of the season, and you mentioned how closely Brittany Bowlen was working with the state health department and, the COVID-19 task force. How crucial was her involvement in that and that COVID-19 task force in making sure that we had a successful season, and how happy were you with what she was able to accomplish in that role?
I think she did a great job. She kept the trains on the tracks is how I would describe it. And, there was a lot of critical conversations that happened with the state of Colorado in terms of us being able to play games in our stadium, starting with that, then getting some fans in the stadium. Then getting our players and our coaches and our staff in here, exceeding the number of people that would otherwise have been permitted in a normal business setting based on state COVID requirements. And we got the waiver or the exemptions that were required to do that. And Brittany orchestrated all of that and was at the front of it and was successful in those negotiations. And it was a big deal for the organization. We had some hiccups as an organization, but none of those fall on her. That falls on some of us, and collectively some problems that we might have had here at UCL. But they were hiccups. One of them was very unfortunate when we didn't have a quarterback against New Orleans. But we moved on from that. We kept playing the games. We stayed the course, and Brittany had a lot to do with bringing people together to make sure that we were able to do that.
How important, we talked to Coach Fangio and some of the players, and they said not having an in-person offseason, they felt like put them at a disadvantage coming into this season, maybe more so than it would have if they had a regular offseason. So as we look to 2021, I know it's hard, it's so difficult and virtually impossible to predict what the world's going to look like in a couple of months, but how optimistic are you that this offseason might be a little bit more conducive to having some of that in-person contact and maybe some of the things that last off season was missing?
I'm actually pretty optimistic about that, Matt. And the reason is I think we need to do whatever it takes to bring players in here to practice and work out together and be around each other. Maybe that's not in team meetings or individual meeting settings, depending upon where the virus is and the vaccine is and the country is and our state is on all of these issues. I understand that. But if we have to test and we have to track and go through the same protocols to get these guys in here to be together, to work out and to do the OTAs and to do the mini camps, I think we should do that. I think it's critical. It's just where we are. Our team with our roster makeup and our coaching staff need to blend together, need to be together in certain instances in this offseason to help us be successful. I think that's important.
I know how much it pains you not to have fans in the stands and at training camp this season. And without getting too much into forecasting, where should fans' expectations be for the fan experience in 2021 and a return to live events? And do you think that after a season away, the excitement or the anticipation for live events will even be that much greater?
Yeah, I do. I'll go to the latter part of your question. I think that people are chomping at the bit for live events. I think they're chomping at the bit to come back and watch us play. They want us to play a little better, Matt. It's not been good enough. We need to start winning games, more games. First and foremost, whatever we do, we have to make sure that the fans feel safe and feel good about coming back to the stadium, and that we have, wherever we are with COVID, either everyone has, a certain number have vaccine and it looks like the disease is parting, or we still have some issues out there, but we can put in a certain number of fans. We just have to make them feel comfortable, make them feel safe, and feel good about coming back to the facility, coming back to Empower Field.
As we wrap up, Joe, just looking ahead to 21, I'll ask you this broadly. Where do you think the Broncos stand as an organization in the new year? I know the way that we work as an organization has changed a lot. And I know that's a broad question considering everything that's happened and the sacrifices that have been made this year, but taking stock of everything that's happened in the last 12 months, how optimistic do you feel about this organization heading forward? And where do you think this organization stands currently in 2021?
Well, there's some uncertainty with ownership, and I think that's natural. But I honestly, I don't think that carries inside the building. I think that more rests with fans and people away from us. I got to say, I commend all the employees for the way they conduct themselves and go about their duties and really adapted and pivoted with COVID. Look, everyone is, I think, frustrated with the way our seasons have gone the last few years. I'm at the top of that list, and the frustration. We're not naive to the frustration that exists outside of this building and away from this building either. It exists with fans and constituents, and they want to see us perform better. So we've got to take some steps, work harder, roll up our sleeves to win more games. I say people are eager to come back to the stadium, and we've done some surveying and some research that indicates that's the case. But they also want to see us win, and they will not tolerate the losing forever and ever. They just simply won't, and their frustration level is high. So we have an obligation as an organization to turn that around and really roll up our sleeves and exhaust every possible way that we can do that. Part of that is going to be hiring a good GM and getting him in here, working in concert with Vic. And then, as I said, working through an off season where we get players back in here. We got some good building blocks of young players. And I believe in the coaching staff in terms of their experience and ability to help them develop. But it's got to start to happen here, in 2021. That's how I would phrase it.
Well, I know there's a lot of fans out there that are eagerly awaiting 2021 and are very optimistic and looking forward to. I know there's a lot of work, Joe, that has to happen before the 2021 season, but we look forward to chatting with you soon, hopefully in person next time. But thank you for chatting with us. We really appreciate your time.
You got it. Thanks, Matt.